Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what I like to call the perfect machine, the staggering, unbroken biology of the shark. Seriously, we're going to reframe pretty much everything you thought you knew about these ancient survivors. We usually think of dinosaurs as the ultimate baseline for ancient life, right? But today, we're looking at a creature whose absolute superpower is basically never changing. It's a design so flawless, it literally never needed to evolve. Okay, here's a fact that absolutely breaks most people's brains when they first hear it. Think about the oldest living things on Earth. You probably picture ancient, towering forests, right? Well, if we put a modern shark and a typical tree side by side on an evolutionary starting block, the shark has a massive head start. I mean, it completely shatters our traditional timeline of life on this planet. Let's trace this back. If we roll the clock back 450 million years, this is when the shark's core body plan first fully emerges, instantly making them apex predators in a thriving ocean. But think about the land at that exact same time. For a massive 100 million year stretch, the continents are just barren rock. It isn't until we hit the 350 million year mark that the Earth finally produces its very first tree. Think about that. That is a 100 million year head start. This apex predator's flawless design actually predates the invention of wood itself. Just let that sink in for a second. While the very first plants were just kind of trying to figure out how to stand upright, sharks had already been ruling the water for an absolute eternity. They predate not just forests, but flowers and seeds. Actually, it gets crazier. This unchanged biological blueprint is older than Mount Everest. It's older than the North Star. It is literally older than Saturn's rings, which scientists think formed only a few hundred million years ago. Absolutely wild, right? So the really crucial point here is that as millions and millions of years passed, this steady creature survived pretty much whatever catastrophe the universe threw at the planet. They have lived through at least 4 separate mass extinction events. And yes, that includes the exact asteroid impact that wiped out the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs vanished, but the sharks? They just kept swimming. Section 1. The unchanging biological blueprint. To understand why their original design was so spot on that it never needed to evolve, we have to look at a pretty massive anatomical contrast. We find giant dinosaur fossils all the time, right? So why don't we ever dig up intact skeletons of ancient sharks? Well, the answer hides inside their living anatomy. While heavy dinosaur bones eventually harden and fossilize into stone, a shark's body contains absolutely zero bone. None. Their entire internal framework is built from soft, bendable tissue called cartilage, which rots away super rapidly in the ocean. Now, this cartilage is exactly like the flexible stuff you have right now in your ears or the tip of your nose. It acts as a really sturdy structural skeleton. But because cartilage is lighter than bone, it helps sharks stay perfectly buoyant in the water. They don't even need a swim bladder like other fish. But more importantly, it makes them incredibly flexible. It allows these massive predators to practically turn on a dime to catch their prey. And this brilliantly illustrates why we never find those complete ancient shark skeletons. When a shark dies, that cartilage skeletal structure just completely decays. The only parts dense enough to survive the decay are their teeth. So those towering, massive megalodon displays you see in museums? They're really just giant jaws made of thousands of hard teeth, left scattered behind after the original skeleton completely rotted away. Most of what we actually know about ancient sharks comes almost entirely from just finding their fossilized teeth. Section 2. Hunting by electric ghost. Now that we've got a handle on their physical structure, let's plunge down to the pitch-black ocean floor and explore their ultimate predatory superpower. Down in the dark depths, sight and smell aren't always going to cut it, especially when prey is completely camouflaged. So sharks have a sixth sense that we humans just don't have, and honestly, can barely even imagine. They can actually feel the invisible electricity of their prey. Seriously, every living creature gives off tiny electrical signals just by moving its muscles. Sharks detect these fields using a highly sensitive network called the ampulla of Lorenzi. Basically, it's hundreds of jelly-filled gum-like pores heavily concentrated right on their snout. To understand just how sensitive this is, imagine a fish hiding completely motionless, buried under a thick layer of sand. Even when it's perfectly still, just the simple act of that hidden fish's heart beating emits a tiny, tiny electrical signal. We're talking about a change of just a few billionths of a volt pulsing up into the water. Normally, it'd be completely impossible to isolate something that microscopic from the noisy background static of the ocean. But let's trace how this incredible hunt unfolds step by step. First, that hidden heartbeat pulses. Second, the dense, highly conductive jelly inside the shark's pores catches that unbelievably faint voltage and channels it directly into the shark's nervous system.
Third, because these pores are so finely tuned, the shark's brain easily triangulates that microscopic voltage. It turns what is essentially an electric ghost into a highly precise target. And finally, the shark zeroes in and strikes perfectly right through the sand, entirely in the dark. It's just a flawless system.
Section 3. The 400-year-old shark. So let's bring these massive evolutionary timelines we've been talking about back down to a single localized anchor. Most vertebrates, and yeah, that includes us, have fast-paced biological clocks that cap our lifespans at just a few decades. But the Greenland shark, it completely defies that biological limit, surviving for well over 400 years. By living way down in the freezing Arctic deep, the extreme cold forces their entire biological engine into ultra-slow motion. This stretches their life expectancy past 250 years, and in some documented cases, pushes it over 4 centuries. To really put that staggering longevity into perspective for you, this extreme lifespan means there is a specific individual Greenland shark swimming out in the ocean today that was actually born before the United States even existed. One single animal experiencing literally centuries of time. And you can actually measure this slow-motion existence just by looking at their growth rate. These deep ocean giants grow only about 1 single centimeter per year. It's just a staggeringly slow pace of life, and it dictates absolutely everything they do. Because of this agonizingly slow physical growth, their basic life stages take entire generations to complete. I mean, think about human childhood, which lasts, maybe 18 years? For the Greenland shark, they don't even reach biological adulthood until they are around 150 years old. That's a century-and-a-half-long childhood. This unimaginable timeline transforms these sharks into living time capsules. That single shark we mentioned, the one born before the American Revolution, it's still out there right now, silently cruising the dark, freezing waters. They are quiet witnesses to centuries of our fleeting human history. They're just perfectly adapted to keep on swimming. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. We've seen today how this creature's design is older than trees. It's older than Saturn's rings. We know it survived 4 mass extinctions, and it completely outlived the dinosaurs. So looking forward, what will this perfect biological machine outlive next? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, stay curious out there.